Imagine a world that's perfectly stable, perfectly happy. A world with no pain, no suffering. Sounds pretty great, doesn't it? But what if you had to give something up to get it? What would be the true cost of all that comfort? That's the chilling question at the very heart of Aldous Huxley's masterpiece, Brave New World, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Wow, that one sentence just perfectly captures the terrifying beauty of this book, doesn't it? Humanity is optional. Just think about that for a second. This is a world where they've managed to eliminate all the bad stuff, all the suffering. But in doing that, they also got rid of everything that makes us, well, us. Love, real art, difficult truths, and maybe most importantly, the freedom to choose your own way.
So how in the world did things get this way? First up, let's dive into the seductive logic of the world state. We're going to see how they built this entire society on a foundation of total control, but cleverly disguised it as universal happiness.
So the world state's motto is community, identity, stability. And on the surface, those sound like pretty good ideals. But here's the twist. They've completely redefined what each word means. Community doesn't mean connection. It means enforced sameness, where everyone belongs to everyone else. Identity isn't something you go out and discover, it's a role you're assigned before you're even born. And stability, the ultimate prize, is just a code word for suppressing any messy, unpredictable human emotion.
And they pull this off through this chillingly efficient three-step assembly line for creating people. First, you have what's called the Bakanovsky process, which is basically a way to mass-produce identical human embryos. Then, each of those embryos is predestined for a social class, from the intelligent alphas down to the menial epsilons. And finally, to make sure it all sticks, they use hypnopia, or sleep teaching, programming their minds with slogans while they sleep. So you see, individuality isn't just erased, it never even gets a chance to exist.
Now, you'd think a system this tight would need soldiers on every corner, right? But here's where it gets really clever. The world state doesn't rule by fear. Nope. It maintains control with something much, much more powerful. Pleasure and distraction.
And for that, you need to meet Soma. It's literally described as the perfect drug. It gives you all the benefits of Christianity and alcohol with none of the downsides. It's a chemical pacifier that the state just hands out. Anytime a citizen feels even a flicker of anxiety or sadness, they just take a Soma holiday. It is the ultimate tool for social control because it makes being a servant feel like you're making a choice.
And this right here is one of those slogans they whisper into kids' ears while they sleep. It says it all, doesn't it? A gram is better than a dam. It means don't confront your problems, don't feel anything negative, just pop a pill and escape. Why bother with difficult feelings when you can just be happy?
And this gets us to one of the most crucial takeaways from the entire novel. Pleasure can be a way more effective tool of control than fear. See, tyrants usually rule by punishment, but the world state governs by seduction. With all the constant entertainment, the casual sex, and of course Soma, its citizens are kept in a state of perpetual distraction. They're just too content to ever question their reality, which makes this form of control practically invisible and almost perfect.
Okay, but what happens when you throw a wrench in the gears of this perfect machine? What happens when someone who hasn't been conditioned suddenly enters this world? Well, that's the big turning point in the story, the arrival of a character who represents everything the world state has worked so hard to get rid of.
And you can really see how these two worlds just smash into each other. You've got the sterile, predictable world state on one side and the savage reservation on the other. A place where life is still raw, messy, and real. In the reservation, people are born naturally, not decanted in a lab. Family is a sacred thing, not some obscene idea. And they believe in God and ritual, even suffering, a total contrast to the world state, where the only God is the industrialist Henry Ford.
And this is John, the so-called savage, quoting Shakespeare when he first lays eyes on the world state. At first, he's just filled with wonder. But what's so fascinating is how Huxley uses that quote with such irony, because John, who was raised on Shakespeare, has a language for passion, tragedy, and truth, concepts that are totally alien to the people in this supposedly advanced utopia.
John's arrival forces a huge confrontation that gets right to the very heart of the novel. It's a philosophical showdown between two totally different visions of what it even means to be human.
The whole conflict really boils down to this fundamental choice. On one side, you have the world controller, Mustafa Mond. He argues for engineered happiness, saying society chose comfort and stability over difficult truths. But on the other side is John. He argues for the value of truth, art, and even pain. He actually claims the right to be unhappy because that right is tied to the freedom to be truly human.
So, this novel was written back in 1932.
why does it still feel so shockingly relevant? Let's take a look at how Huxley's vision echoes in our own 21st century world and ask if it's gone from prophecy to reality.
It's kind of striking when you lay it all out like this. Huxley's soma. You can see a clear echo in our widespread use of pharmaceuticals to manage our moods. Hypnopedia, that constant, invisible conditioning, well, that feels a lot like the social media algorithms that are always shaping our beliefs and desires. And the feelies, sensory entertainment that's all stimulation and no substance, that looks a whole lot like our world of immersive VR and endless digital distraction.
And in the end, the novel's real power isn't about its specific predictions. It's about the fundamental questions it forces us to ask about the trade-offs we're willing to make. In our own pursuit of convenience and comfort through technology, what essential parts of our own humanity might we be sacrificing along the way?
And that leaves us with this one final haunting question. Huxley's warning is that the greatest threat to our freedom might not be a tyrant who oppresses us with pain, but a system that simply seduces us with pleasure. To remain human, he suggests, is to feel, to question, and to find meaning in our struggles. And maybe, just maybe, that's the truest form of rebellion there is.